Okie dokie. Pokies. Um, Happy Monday, everybody. Hope everyone is well. Yeah, just gonna jump on tonight, and I think what I want to do is the Golden Globe nominations have just been released, so I want to kind of go through those and probably laugh at them because the Golden Globes are kind of a joke. I mean, I personally don't care about Golden Globes. I actually don't even necessarily care about the Oscars either. I haven't watched the Oscars in, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. Golden Globes the same, but it's always kind of fun to see what's been nominated, see what's been snubbed. The one thing about Golden Globes is that I feel like the Golden Globes are a little more welcome to like bigger budget films. I think the Oscars are a little more like prestige, but Golden Globes kind of injects some blockbusters that the Oscars don't. So I always kind of like to see what Golden Globes nominate. But at the end of the day, I don't really care. I don't really watch either the Golden Globes or the Oscars, but be fun to see what got nominated. And then after that, I want to watch a video about movie theaters. I'm pretty passionate about the movie theater experience, so I want to react to a video that I saw come across my YouTube. And then I think we're going to jump into another video about science fiction and whether or not science fiction modern movies are getting worse. At least I think that's where he's going. I only watched like the first minute or so, but it should be pretty interesting. But yeah, let's start with the Golden Globes, and we will go from there. When the nomination like best show of the year, where do you watch that? When the nomination like the best show of the year, where do you watch? I mean, it depends on what the best show is. Well, here, let's go through it. Let's go through it. All right, so best motion picture drama, we got The Brutalist, which I plan on seeing here pretty soon. I actually think the theater up the street from me is playing it in 70 millimeters, so that would be cool. A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nickel Boys, and September 5th. Wow, Noah Nora. That's kind of weird. Oh, yeah, September 5th comes out, I think, this week or next week, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, Noah Nora. That's weird. Oh, wait, okay, I forgot. Golden Globes are weird. I forget that they make different genres. Let's see. So they do a musical and a comedy. So that's where Anora is a musical or a comedy? What? That's whack. Habu, like where Colin Farrell and Christian Melody got nominated. Where do you watch those awards? Yeah, where do you watch the Golden Globes? I want to say it's like ABC. I think it may be. Sometimes they stream it on like Hulu or Disney. I want to say that the Oscars last year you could stream it through Disney if I remember right. One of the streaming services will have it, I assume, or like YouTube or something. But it should be like, well, does it say? Hold on, let's look in this. The announcement streamed live on CBS. Okay, well, if they announce the nominations on CBS, my assumption is it will air on CBS, which means it'll probably be on Paramount. So you may have to get a Paramount Plus subscription. That would be my guess. I mean, if they announce on CBS is Paramount, so that would be my guess. But does it actually say? Let me see if I can get the confirmation on that for you. But yeah, my guess would be Paramount Plus. Oh, here we go. Yeah, stream CBS, stream on Paramount Plus on Sunday, January 5th. So there you go, Paramount Plus. You're all set. Put it in your calendar. Okay, yeah, so I forgot that they split up the genre. So they have a musical comedy, which is Anora. Baffling to me why that is a comedy or musical. Same with Challengers. I don't think Challengers is either a comedy or musical. Amelia Perez, I mean, that's a musical that makes sense. Real Pain. The Substance? Wait, what? The Substance is nominated in the musical or comedy? The Substance is a horror film. What the fuck? Okay, and then obviously you got Wicked, which I assume is going to take that prize. Although Anora, I don't know. It's just weird that Honora and The Substance is in musical or comedy. That's wild. Best motion picture. Sorry, I'm like that blows my mind. Best motion picture animated. We got Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Moana 2, Wallace and Gromit, The Wild Robot. Cinematic box office achievement. Okay. So what? They're just giving applause to movies that did well at the box office? I guess that would go to Deadpool Wolverine, right? Or Inside Out 2. Yeah, what a weird. That must be a new thing. I've never heard that before. Best motion picture non-English. All We Imagine Is Light. Amelia Perez, The Girl with the Needle, I'm Still Here, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, and Vermiglo. I have not seen any of those, so I have no horse in the race on that one. Best performance by a female actor in a motion picture drama. Pamela Anderson. What? What the Last Showgirl? What the fuck is that? I've never heard that. The Last Showgirl. What? I've never heard this. Huh. Why have I not heard of this? Okay, yeah, that's news to me. Okay, Pamela Anderson. I've never heard of The Last Showgirl. I didn't even know that was a thing. But okay, Pamela Anderson, there she is. Angelina Jolie, Nicole Kidman, Tilda Swinton, Fernanda Torres, and Kate Winslet. Again, no Mickey. What's her name? From Honora. Oh yeah, god damn! I keep forgetting they do different genres. Okay, so the actor for drama. So I'm assuming that Honora will be nominated for musical comedy, which makes no sense. Male actor Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, Daniel Craig, Coleman Domingo, Ralph Fiennes, Sebastian Stan. I've only seen. Oh, I've seen none of those. Although I'm going to see the Brutalist here pretty soon. Then we got Amy Adams for Night Bitch, Cynthia Erivo, Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon, Mikey Madsen, there she is, Honora, Demi Moore, The Substance, and Zendaya, Challengers. I don't understand how The Substance is nominated for a musical. I can't get over that. That is so weird. That doesn't even make any sense. The Substance is nominated for Best Musical or Comedy. Golden Globes, man. Golden Globes. But yeah, it's basically the same kind of movies for the most part. I don't know. I don't really have any horse in this race. Oh, Hugh Grant. That's pretty fun. Wait, in a musical or comedy, Heretic? Oh my god, what? Just do a horror genre. Best horror. Best performance by male actor in a horror film. I don't understand why these awards do just like ignore horror. It doesn't make any sense. Instead, they put Heretic in musical or comedy. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. Jesse Plemons' Kind of Kindness. That's probably going to be my my guess. Jesse Plemons is incredible in that movie. Although Jesse Eisenberg is getting some stuff. Glenn Powell is a lot of fun. Yeah. Wow. Hugh Grant for Heretic in the best comedy or musical. That's fun. Okay. Best director, motion picture. Sean Baker. I cannot pronounce their name. Edward Berger, Brady Corbett, Corle Forjab. I can't pronounce any of these people's names. Best director would probably go to Edward here. Oh, no, sorry, Brady Corbett. That would be my guess. Although it could go to Sean Baker, but my guess is going to be it's Brady. But yeah, let's go down to let's do some television stuff. TV drama, The Day of the Jackal, The Diplomat, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Shogun, Slow Horses, and Squid Game. I think that whatever category Shogun is in, it's going to win. That's going to be my guess, and it deserves it. I think it deserves everything. Shogun was incredible. I think that Shogun will sweep every category it's in. That would be my guess. Best television, so that's my vote, is Shogun for best drama. Best musical or comedy, Abbott Elementary, The Bear. Again, this happens every year. I don't think The Bear is a comedy. I think it's a drama, but what are you going to do? The Gentleman, Hacks, Nobody Wants This, Only Murders in the Building. My guess is it's going to go to The Bear. That would be what I would vote for in this list. Granted, I've only seen The Bear and Abbott Elementary. I've seen a little bit of Hacks. Did not see The Gentleman. Have not seen Nobody Wants This or Only Murders in the Building. Although people keep telling me to watch Only Murders in the Building, but I have not watched it yet. So yeah, my guess would be The Bear. That would be my vote. Best Television Limited Series, Anthology, Motion Picture Made for Television, Baby Reindeer, Disclaimer, Monsters, The Penguin, Ripley, True Detective, Night Country. Ooh. Man, I don't know. My guess would be Ripley or The Penguin. That would be my guess. Best Performance by a Female Actor in a Television Series. Again, it's going to go to Shogun. I think everything is going to go to Shogun. I think any category that the Shogun is going to be in, I think Shogun is going to win, and I think it should. Let's see. We got Male Actor for Drama. We got some Gary Oldman. Slow Horses is so good. If you guys haven't watched Slow Horses, that show is awesome. But again, it's going to go to Shogun. At least I hope it does. See, is there any other big stuff we want to cover? We kind of got the big stuff. God, there's so many categories. But the one that makes zero sense to me, I'm going to keep harping on this. The one that makes zero sense to me, where I'm lost for words, is The Substance being nominated for musical or comedy. That makes zero sense. That is wild. Again, I just think, why don't they just make a horror genre? You have musical comedies and drama. Just throw in horror. Then you can nominate The Substance. You can nominate Heretic. You can nominate Longlegs, or whatever your heart desire. Just give us a horror genre. It's annoying that these award ceremonies just ignore horror. And to piggyback off of The Substance, you still got, what was it, Hugh Grant nominated for The Heretic in the musical or comedy. That is like, I feel like I'm living in a fucking Twilight Zone. That makes no sense. But, there it is. So yeah, January 5th, I believe, is when this is going to air. I'm not going to watch it. I haven't watched any of these award shows in a long time. I kind of just gave up. I think the last one I watched was the infamous Moonlight La La Land situation. I remember watching that live. That was wild. That was the last time I watched the Oscars, so I missed the slap, the Will Smith slap. But yeah, so I guess tune into Paramount Plus on Sunday, January 5th to watch this award ceremony. Again, some of this doesn't make any sense to me. I guess I didn't put my bet on Best Drama, which is the top prize of the night. My assumption is it'll be The Brutalist. Even though I haven't seen it yet, everyone that's seen it is raving about it. It's like a 3.5 hour long drama epic, so typically those do very well. That would be my guess. Or I could see September 5th also grabbing it, but I think it's going to be The Brutalist. That would be my guess. All right, so that's the Golden Globes. Yeehaw, there they are. I know you're just foaming out the mouth for the Golden Globes, but you have to wait a month. Okay. What do I want to do? Do I want to watch the sci-fi video or the theater video? I think I want to do the theater video. It's a little bit shorter. So yeah, this is by a YouTuber named Jacob Ross. I've never heard of him, but this video kind of showed up on my feed, and I watched about a minute of it. I have my own opinions about movie theaters and the state of movie theaters, so it'll be kind of interesting to see what this Jacob Ross guy says. So yeah, let's give it a listen. Let me know if the volume's too loud. I can bring it down if it's too loud. But yeah, let's check it out. Shh. Nice. I see what you did there, Jacob.
Jacob Ross, film guy here. Let's talk about the current pathetic state of movie theaters. It's not only the endless list of sequels, prequels, remakes, live action remakes. I've had so many thoughts built up over the past few months about the current state of theaters, the experience in going. Let's talk about a little thing called theater etiquette. It's something everybody...
Man, okay, so theater etiquette. I'm not going to lie. I think I probably see somewhere around 40 to 50 movies in theaters every year. And I don't know if I've been blessed by the gods. I don't know what's happening, but I very rarely have to deal with assholes in the theater, whether it's talking or texting or it is so rare for me to experience that. I'm so baffled. I'm like, I don't know if I'm like the luckiest theater goer in the world. Although I think I can attribute some of that to the fact that I sit very close to the screen. Like, you know how, you reserve your seat nowadays and they're lettered. And so it's like the first row closest to the screen is A, and then B, and then C, and so on and so forth. My go-to is either a C or D. And so I think what's happening is most people don't sit that close. Because like when I go to the theater, most of the time it's me and C or D, and then there's like 4 or 5 sections that no one's sitting at, and then like the whole back theater is like crowded. So maybe that's why I don't experience, assholes and stuff and people talking. But yeah, I feel like I've been very, 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 because I go to opening night showings at like 7 o'clock, where you think that most people would be going. And I typically don't have any issues. But I understand that a lot of people do, and it sucks. And I wish that people were more respectful, and it's very annoying.
Everybody knows, everybody should know at least. It's the basics. No talking, no texting. It's that simple. Just stay quiet. I've had several experiences lately where it's just been an absolute nightmare in the theater, and it's been honestly just so depressing to experience. I think after COVID, everybody has just simply forgotten etiquette.
Yeah, I think COVID fucked everybody up, for sure. I think COVID... I think now everyone treats the theater like it's their living room, like they're watching Netflix, and Oh, by the way, side note, shout out for the Everything Everywhere All at Once poster in the background. I love that movie. But yeah, I think COVID kind of ruined everything. But yeah, let's see where it goes.
Every time I go to see a movie now, or at least plan to go and see one, there's almost this small sense of anxiety that I'm going to have either a great experience or it's going to be ruined by someone or the whole theater. As most people tend to understand, when you go to the theater, you're quiet, you turn off your phone, and you just get sucked into the movie, experience it, enjoy it, because you paid $20 or more just to see it. It is insane that we have gotten...
Yeah, honestly, like when I go to a normal auditorium, I think it's like $11 or $12, and if somebody is being rude, either A, I'll just move to a different seat, or B, just kind of have to suck it up and be like, all right, well, there goes $12. But IMAX tickets are $18. I mean, they're how much are they? I think they're $7 for me because I subscribe to the Regal subscription thing, $21 a month, so I get a discount at IMAX. But if I didn't have that and I paid $18, or even more if I'm paying for my girlfriend to go, and someone next to me is being a loud, obnoxious asshole, it's like, dude, shut up. You know how much fucking money I just spent? Shut up. You know how much money you spent on this thing? Like, just shut up. So yeah, I totally get the money aspect where it's like, dude, you just spent all this money and someone's ruining this. This is why you go to the theaters, to experience something on the big screen and be immersed. And then to have that immersion broke because someone can't keep their yap shut is very annoying.
To this point, to where every experience I have in the theater, there's always one thing that just ruins everything. By that point, I'm immediately taken away from the movie, and I'm now focused on what that person is doing and why the fuck they're pulling out their phone during Dune Part 2, out of all movies. It's incredibly frustrating because every time I go, I'm respectful, I'm quiet. Sometimes I don't even eat the candy that I bought just because it's making too much noise.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. There's been times we're watching a movie where it's like there'll be a loud scene in like a club, or just like there's music playing in the background of the scene, and then you get like a hard cut to like silence, and like you're eating during the scene that's really loud, and then you get to the silent scene and you're like and you have to like stop and you have to wait. That's me. I totally get where this guy's coming from. 100% agree. I am that aware of how much noise I'm making, to the point where like I'm making an inconvenient for myself just to please others, to make sure I'm not being an asshole.
Like, I don't want to be the guy that ruins everybody else's experience because he was too busy opening up his Sour Punch straws. I don't want to be that person. But nowadays you'll be walking into a theater and you could have two other people in the theater and they could be talking the whole time, going on their phone, just being disrespectful. It's really sad. Like, if I wanted some commentary over the movie, I would have bought the Blu-ray. Fuck you! No, but seriously, if you're one of these people that can't sit through a film in a theater without checking your phone, you're a piece of shit. Reacting is fine if you're laughing at a joke or jumping at a jump scare.
I don't know. That's a little harsh to say if you can't stay off your phone, you're a piece of shit. I mean, I don't mind if someone's like pulls out their phone to see what time it is. Like, that's fine. I think you're a piece of shit when it's like you pull out your phone and you're like scrolling through Facebook or Twitter, like you're on there for a long time. Then I think you're kind of a piece of shit. But if you just kind of like look, for like 5-6 seconds, put it back, I think that's fine. It happens. It's not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, people who are like scrolling through social media and watching fucking TikTok videos while you're watching a movie, those people are pieces of shit for sure.
That's fine. That's what going to the movies is all about. It's being with other people and all reacting at the same time. Laughing all together at a really funny joke is great. But then when you're like, dude, this reminds me of the time that Tommy, he went outside and he got hit in the head by an anvil. Oh, dude, it was so cool. Like, you should have been there. I care too much about the theater. I care about other people's...
Dude, I totally agree. That drives me nuts. This is why, like, I used to work in an environment where I could put on podcasts. We, like, listen to podcasts at work. And I stopped putting on podcasts because, like, we'd be, working together and, hey, pick a podcast. And so I'd scroll for a while, something I'd find interesting. And I click on it. And I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. I want to know about this topic, whatever the topic was. And then like 5 minutes into it, the introduction, they're giving you information, and I'm like listening to it and trying to like get all the information from this podcast. And all of a sudden people just start talking, oh, that reminds me of the thing. And then all of a sudden now I can't hear what the people on the podcast are saying. I'm not getting any more information. So I like stopped listening to podcasts around people so that I could just focus on, what the podcast is about, because people just start talking. I feel the same way about like, back in the day, I used to have like Lost watching parties or like Game of Thrones parties where you go to like someone's house and everyone gets together, have some beers and watch the brand new episode. And I stopped going to those because it's like I get sucked into the story, especially for something like Game of Thrones. You get like so sucked into it, and all of a sudden someone starts talking, and all of a sudden you're missing dialogue, and you're just like, shut up. So I totally get that, 100%.
Experiences, I care about my own, and it sucks that a lot of people just don't care anymore. So now I want to talk about a few experiences that I've had lately, starting with A Quiet Place Day 1. Already the movie wasn't great. It was fine. I'm not a huge fan of the Quiet Place movies. I just saw it because there was an early screening and I had the day off. I was like, you know what? Screw.
I disagree. I think the first two were great. I think those movies are awesome. But yeah, this one I agree. This one was fine. It was okay. It wasn't, I don't think it's anywhere near as good as the first two. But that's an awful movie to see in theaters because 70% of that movie is quiet. It's just silence. So that one's a rough one to watch in theaters for sure.
Just check it out. Hopefully it's good. And I was kind of enjoying it. I was getting into it a little bit. But then all of a sudden, I heard a baby crying. Like in the middle of the movie. I don't know how he was fine the whole time, but that middle point, he lost his shit. And the parents didn't take the child out of the theater. They just kept it there, and it just would not stop crying. They didn't try to calm it down. They didn't do anything. Now, I picked up that toddler by his head, and then I threw him in the trash can. And for the rest of the movie, that child was screaming, kicking, crying for the rest of the film. And I was like, what are we doing here? It's A Quiet Place. And he brought a fucking baby?
Dude, that's wild. That's wild. Yeah, I mean, if that's if that's the experience, you got to try your best. Like, if it were me, if I was that baby's dad, I would immediately pick that baby up and go out into the hallway, calm that thing down. Yeah, because that sucks. That's a screaming, crying baby during a movie like A Quiet Place. Yeah, that's rough.
Babies goo goo gaga and piss their pants and scream and cry all the time, and you're gonna bring it into the quietest film imaginable. But then we get to a recent experience that I had, which was seeing Coraline in a theater, and I should have been a little more self-aware of what I was getting into. I assumed that Coraline re-releasing in theaters would have been filled with a bunch of just, I don't know, goths, I guess. And while I was correct, there was children too. And this...
I actually have never seen Coraline. That's one that slipped past me. I've not seen... I don't think I've seen a lot of Leica films. I haven't seen... what else did they do? Kubo and the Two Strings, Coraline. Is Box Trolls Leica? I think Box Trolls is Leica. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a Leica film. I need to get on that.
This is why from here on out I'm probably just going to avoid family-friendly movies, is because there was this group of probably 13-year-olds. I mean, the fucking movie is older than these kids, and they went on their phone the whole time. They had an older person with them. I don't know if it was their sister or if it was their mom. I couldn't tell. I didn't really look at them, but they commentated over the whole film. And it was so loud and distracting and violently annoying.
That's queso.
I think I would slightly disagree, just based on my experiences with kid films, family films. Obviously, it's a case-by-case basis, but I remember, recently I saw Wicked in a packed theater with kids and families, and I thought that was a blast. People were talking, and I don't know if there's any, I don't remember any singing, but there was definitely people talking and kids cheering, and I think that was a very fun theater-going experience. And I remember seeing Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. It was the same experience. It was pretty packed, a lot of kids, and a lot of kids were laughing and they were doing karate moves. And I know that sounds like a nightmare, but in context of watching the movie, it was actually kind of fun. It was like that their joy was kind of seeping into me a little bit. It helped me enjoy the film a little more. But again, case by case basis, I can understand how, someone could be annoyed by that. But yeah, it just depends.
It's queso.
That's me. That's me. That's me. I have buttons in my eyes.
And I went through the ceiling.
That I finally said something. I shushed the motherfuckers.
Damn.
And it made it worse. I kind of waited 15 years to finally experience this film myself in a theater again. And I had my chair being kicked and my ear talked off the entire movie. And thank God I've seen this film 1,000 times already, or else I would have just probably left because it was that bad. And it's experiences that people are having.
I would say if that does happen to you, if you can move, I would suggest moving. I know that sucks. You paid for a certain seat and you want to have that seat and you picked it for the reasons why you picked it. So, that does suck. But, if you have the option to just get up and move a row forward or 2 rows forward or a little to the right, a little to the left, that's what I would do. If someone's fucking kicking my seat and screaming in my ear, I would just be like, all right, I'm going to go 1 row ahead since there's nobody sitting in front of me. That's what I would do, but shushing works. Shushing works. That works too.
Something like that are making them stay away from the theater as a whole. They would rather wait 2 weeks for a movie to come out on digital after its theatrical release, and it's making less in theaters. It's just this whole, it's like a circle. It's digital movies, it's theater experiences, it's movie theater prices just skyrocketing because everything's failing, and it's just this circle that's spiraling and going down, and it's very unfortunate. But they got a few tactics up their sleeves. They're trying to save the theater by bringing in new gimmicks. It's what we need, I guess.
No.
Remember 3D?
Saw 3D.
That 3D craze was pretty insane. However, both Avatar movies in 3D is some of the best movie-going experiences. Like I sat, like I was saying earlier, when I go to the movies, I sit 3 or 4 rows from the screen. And dude, seeing Avatar Way of Water in 3D, 4 rows from a fucking giant IMAX screen was the most immersive experience I've ever had in a movie. Say what you will about the movie itself, I thought it was fine. I thought it was okay, pretty entertaining, I guess. But the experience of seeing that 3D movie was absolutely insane. It makes me want to watch the third one. Whether or not the movie's going to be good or not, it's kind of irrelevant. I just want to be immersed in that world again on an IMAX screen. Like, that was awesome.
What about Universal Studios? I've heard of them. Let's put the two together. What the fuck are we doing? Martin Scorsese said that movie theaters are turning into theme parks, probably about a few years ago. And at the time I was like, you know what, he's kind of right, but I just didn't really see it. But when I see this...
Yeah, that's a fucking nightmare.
I just recently saw a video for Twisters when that came out, in a thing called 4DX.
So whatever happens in the movie, you're gonna feel it in the theater. And while you can turn the water off, you'll still experience wind, fog, vibrations, and over...
That sounds like a nightmare. I would never go to that. That sounds like a fucking nightmare. Like, why? And I bet you those are expensive as hell, too. There's no way you'd get my ass in that seat. There's no way.
20 sensory effects. So instead of just pretending to be in the movie, feel what it's like to be in the movie.
And I don't know how anybody else feels. I don't know if anybody else who's watching this has experienced it. I haven't experienced it. I'm not gonna pay $30 to experience it.
Oh my god, $30?
I don't give a fuck. But 4DX is the most dystopian, disturbing, and stupid thing that theaters have done in a long time.
A button on the chair armrest lets you decide to get wet or not.
Who wants to experience a movie with their seats being rocked, being sprayed with water aggressively, wearing 3D glasses?
This moviegoer loses some of her popcorn.
It is the same exact thing you'll find at Universal Studios. I'm not exaggerating. That's exactly what you get when you go to the Minions ride or Shrek 4D.
Feels just like a roller coaster.
And now...
Yeah, that's not for me. There's no way. There's no way you're going to catch me in a 4DX. I'm trying to think of, like... Put myself in the shoes of somebody else of why they would like that. I don't know. Does that make it more immersive? I guess I can't speak on it. I've never done it. But if 4DX makes it more, makes your theater going experience more immersive, then sure, you go for it. $30 for 4DX though, there's no fucking way. But yeah, I'm trying to think of why someone would want to go to 4DX to have their fucking theater chair, shake and rattle and water being sprayed in your face. If that makes it more immersive for people, then hey, more power to you, but not for me.
Now it's in Twisters, it's in F9, it's in Deadpool. You can experience these movies in 4DX like a theme park ride. Like, it doesn't get more dystopian than that. Are theaters just holding on to keep people engaged and interested in going to the movies to the point where they have to make it like a theme park ride so people go to the theater and pay attention? It's weird. It's really weird. But also, it could be the fact that we're in a low point for cinema. This year's been weird. I haven't seen a lot of great movies at all. Yeah,
this movie's been very weird. It's been a very lackluster weird. I've said this, I sound like a broken record because I've talked about this for the last couple months now. But yeah, this year feels very lackluster. Sure, there's been great movies, but like, I think that it feels more lackluster this year because I think last year was so good. Last year we had so many good movies, and it makes this year look like it looks like nothing. It looks like Dune 2 came out. I mean, that's basically what this year was. Hey, that was the year Dune came out. Whereas like last year was Barbie, Oppenheimer, Across the Spider-Verse, Godzilla -1, John Wick, Fast and Furious, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. There was a lot of Mission Impossible. There was a lot of heavy hitters last year. Whereas this year, it's like, yeah, this year was the year of Dune, and that's kind of it. I guess Deadpool Wolverine. I guess this, looking back on 2024, would be the year of Deadpool Wolverine and Dune. But other than that, this year has been very lackluster. But again, I do think some of that has to do with the fact that last year was so strong, that this year feels so barren. But that could just be my opinion.
Not a lot of unique, interesting, like, blockbusters that are coming out. Other than Kinds of Kindness, Long Legs. Those are great indie films. Those are great lesser known movies. I mean, Long Legs got so much recognition. So many people went out and saw that or knew about it. But what are the big blockbuster studio films that released this year? Twisters, Inside Out 2, Despicable Me 4, all pre-existing properties.
Well, I mean, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Fall Guy, Furiosa, Alien Romulus, Wicked. These are all blockbusters. Yeah, most of those are sequels or pre-existing properties, but I'm trying to think if there's anything that was like new. Strange Darling. Strange Darling was indie though. So yeah, I guess I see your point.
Regurgitation. It's the same shit over and over. It's because we're getting a bunch of uninspired, artless, soulless Hollywood garbage. And it shows. It does. I think the writer's strike and actor's strike had a great impact on what is currently in the theaters right now.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm as doom and gloom as that, because yeah, there are some stinkers, but I mean, there were blockbusters I enjoyed. I enjoyed Furiosa. I enjoyed Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I enjoyed Dune. I enjoyed Fall Guy. I enjoyed Alien Romulus. I enjoyed Wicked. Gladiator 2, yeah, I don't even know if I want to talk about it. Gladiator 2 is a fucking mess. That was a big disappointment. But yeah, I don't know if I'm as doom and gloom. I still think, even though there's sequels and reboots and, the same fucking shit being crammed down our throat, that doesn't necessarily make it bad. Some of these movies are actually really good. So yeah, I'm not as doom and gloom as this guy is.
Let's look right now. Okay. Reagan. Inside Out 2. Blink Twice. We got our first original movie. The Crow. Alien Romulus. Deadpool and Wolverine. Twisters. Despicable Me 4. Afraid. What the fuck is this? There's nothing I'm looking forward to next year. Maybe Mickey 17 by Bong Joon-ho. That's gonna be great. But I'm not excited for the endless supply of sequels, remakes, prequels to pre-existing properties. Just studios making garbage just to hold on to IPs.
Yeah, see, this is where me and this guy differ, because again, I get what he's saying. I think what he's trying to say is that he wants more blockbusters that are original. And the unfortunate reality is that, studios don't want to, invest in a new IP because it's a gamble, whereas they know they can make money for just, making a sequel or rebooting something or a legacy sequel. But again, I don't necessarily that doesn't necessarily mean those movies are going to be bad. Mission Impossible last year was the 7th movie in that franchise, and Dead Reckoning was awesome. It was one of my favorite movies of the summer. So was Across the Spider-Verse. That's the fucking 7th or 8th Spider-Man movie we've gotten since 2001. And Across the Spider-Verse was amazing. So yeah, I kind of reject this notion that just because Hollywood is shoving down sequels and prequels down our throats that it automatically makes it bad. Because some of these movies are awesome. I mean, Furiosa was another good example. Furiosa was great. So yeah, I gotta push back a little bit. He's being a little too harsh.
It's sad. It's really sad. We've gone from theater etiquette to 40X to studios are pieces of shit nowadays. I've watched less movies recently just because I'm now saving my time and saving my money for movies that I actually want to support and engage with and use my time wisely in seeing. I'm not gonna waste my time watching The Crow. I'm not gonna waste my time watching Twisters. I don't care. I want to see something new. I want to see something interesting. Is that really that hard to do? Well, I hope I'm not.
Again, it's like, I understand what you're saying, but, you know, studios have a hard time investing in new IP. That's why we have all these things, because people keep going to see them, and it makes them a lot of money. And not a lot of new IPs make as much money as, you know, Inside Out 2 or a Twisters or a new Marvel movie. He's bringing up... Well, the thing is that, like... So, yeah, he's kind of... He has... Okay, so let me back up. The argument is that Hollywood is just drivel now, and we want new movies, but that's always been the case. There's always been indie films that run alongside big budget films. I mean, last year alone, in July, you had, I'll see if I can remember the timing of this, but I want to say it was Mission Impossible, then it was Barbie the week after that, Barbie and Oppenheimer, and then the week after that was Talk to Me. And Talk to Me, I would argue, is, you know, a small budget horror film from A24. So it's like, you know, indie films are always going to run alongside Hollywood blockbusters. So if you don't like Hollywood blockbusters, there's typically an indie film that's, you know, out that you can go see. Like right now, Wicked and Moana are ruling the box office, but what was it? The movie, is it called The Order? The Order just came out. September 13th is coming out. Nora is out. Heretic is still playing. Like, there's 4 movies out right now. If you are rejecting Hollywood blockbusters, that you can go have a good time and see and enjoy if blockbusters aren't your thing. So I think that I don't think it needs to be one or the other. I think both of these can coexist. You may not like the Hollywood blockbusters. You may not like indie films. I mean, just because you don't like Hollywood movies and you're not seeing movies these days doesn't mean that other people aren't enjoying them. There was a lot of people who enjoyed Deadpool Wolverine. There's a lot of people who enjoyed Twisters, so on and so forth. But yeah, I would say, you know, pick a lane or try and enjoy both. That's kind of where I'm at.
Not the only person who has these thoughts or feelings. I hope you all agree with what I've said here in this 30-minute ramble. Theater
Mostly.
etiquette has just been completely thrown out the window. Nobody follows it anymore, and it's sad. And just the lineup of movies has been completely soulless. I'm gonna leave you with just this final thought. I hope in at least a year from now, I look back at this video and I say, wow, things have changed for the better. Everybody's respectful in theaters again. The movie lineup at the theater is fantastic. Everything's original and great. But I look at Disney.
I'm sorry, but everything can't be original. There's no future where every movie in the theater is going to be original. You know, again, like I just pointed out, there are, you know, a handful of movies out right now that are sequels or pre-existing properties, but there's also new movies. Again, go watch Nora. If you don't want to watch Wicked, go watch Nora. Go watch the is it called The Order? I'm going to get this right. I think it's called The Order. With Jude Law. Where are you? Yeah, The Order. Go watch The Order. Go watch Queer. Go watch Y2K. Go watch September 5th. Like, go watch this. Well, Lord of the Rings is a pre-existing property. Go watch Nickel Boys. Go watch The Last Showgirl. I mean, there's plenty of indie films to go watch. Oh, Night Bitch. Go watch Amy Adams be a Night Bitch. There are plenty of indie films that are original that you can go watch. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if I agree with this guy's take.
And their lineup for their upcoming releases, and I just shrug. Leave a comment down below if you've experienced 40X or had a shitty experience lately in the cinema that you just like need to get off your chest. Share your story down below. I'd love to read it. Thank you for listening to this rant about theaters. So yeah, that's all I got. Have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, so what was that, 12 minutes? what can we take out of this? I would say he's right. Theater etiquette is all over the place, and it ruins the movie-going experience. So that's got to change. I don't know how to change that. I don't know what the hell I can do, or what this guy can do, or any of us can do, other than just tell people to shut the fuck up. I think we've been too polite in theaters. I think we got to start getting a little more angry in theaters. Tell people to shut their damn trap. So yeah, I do think that theater etiquette has run amok. But I think that where I disagree with this Jacob Ross guy is that he seems very doom and gloom about blockbusters, and that blockbusters are getting worse, or they're overrun the theaters and it's not interesting, and he wants more original movies. And I think that there are original movies. You may have to try a little harder to find them, but they do exist, and they do run parallel with, big budget films. So if you want new IPs, again, I just listed off how many. Again, go see Queer, go see The Order, go see, we already did this. So yeah, I think both indie and blockbusters can coexist, and blockbusters will be for blockbuster people, and indies will be for indie people, and sometimes you cross-pollinate on what looks interesting to you. But yeah, so I guess I kind of disagree with the pessimistic look on Hollywood, but also at the same time, this has just been a lackluster year. So I am kind of sympathetic to, this guy's take of like, I don't even know what to see anymore. Nothing's grabbing my attention. It's just fucking schlock. I am kind of sympathetic to that because I've kind of been feeling the same way. Even though I still go out to the theaters and check things out, most of the time I walk out and be like, it was fine. But yeah, again, I just think that last year was so strong that this year pales in comparison. But we'll see what 2025 has up its sleeve. Maybe it'll be a bigger year, but we shall see. So yeah, that was a cool video. Interesting video from this Mr. Jacob Ross. What are we looking at in time? Yeah, we got time to do this other one. So the other one I wanted to look at was from this guy, Josh from Xbox Live. The video is called "What the Hell is Happening to Fantasy?" And I want to see where he's going to go with this. I don't know if it's going to be like a everything is woke and wokeness. If that's what it becomes, buckle up when I have a lot to say. But based on the first 30 seconds, it doesn't seem like that's where he's going to go. But I'm curious to see. He seems like a big fantasy guy, so I kind of dip my toes in and out of fantasy. So some of the stuff he references, I may not even have much input. But I would be interested to see what he means by what the hell is happening to fantasy. So let's buckle up for another video. This one's a little longer. This one's 38 minutes, and let's see what Mr. Josh from Xbox Live has to say about fantasy.
Hi, I'm Josh.
Hi, Josh.
I'm from Xbox Live, and this is Josh from Xbox Live. And today I have a question for you.
Where was Gondor when the Westfold fell?
If you answered that Gondor was defending the passes of Anduin the Great at Cair-Andros and Osgiliath when the Westfold fell, then you are correct. If you're anything like...
What the fuck? I wonder how many people actually could answer that. Not me. As far as Lord of the Rings goes, I would say I'm like a mild fan. I saw all of those in theaters. I think I've seen the extended versions once in my life. I've started the extended versions many times, but they are 17 hours long. Each movie is 17 hours long, and they're kind of hard to finish. So yeah, I would say I'm like a mild Lord of the Rings fan. I went and saw The Hobbit, and I thought it was not that great. So I did not see Desolation of Smaug or The Battle of Five Armies. Although I think people said the Smaug one was pretty good. So maybe I should go back and I might as well finish it. So yeah, I just started Rings of Power today. So yeah, if he's going to do a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff, I don't know how much input I'm going to have.
Like me, then you've probably seen Peter Jackson's The Hobbit trilogy once, and Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy 1 billion times. If you're anything like me, then you really do want to enjoy all these new fantasy series and films that are coming out right now in the 2020s. In an era...
Oh, Rebel Moon was so bad. Oh, Rebel Moon was so bad. That actually broke me. Rebel Moon broke me with Zack Snyder. I was never really a Zack Snyder fan, but like, you know, I would show up and support the old fella. But Rebel Moon Part 2 broke me. After Rebel Moon Part 2, I was like, I'm done. I'm done with Zack Snyder. I am not watching any more of his movies, and I stand by that. I am done. No more. No more from Zack Snyder. Not for me. I'm glad he has a fan base. I'm glad if people like it or like him and his movies, but yeah, he is a filmmaker that is just not for me.
That by all accounts should be the golden age of fantasy.
I'm nobody.
You are Elora Danan, and the world's last, best hope against the evil coming to destroy us all.
What?
But it isn't. If you're anything like me...
I forgot that even existed. Didn't Disney take that away? Am I right on that? Didn't Disney take Willow away? Oh, Will and Grace. Willow has been canceled, which I find at once totally unsurprising and deeply depressing. Don't get me wrong, blah, 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 blah. But did they actually do it? Disney removed Willow from Disney Plus and made... Yeah, what the hell? That's wild. So I remember something about Willow, and I remember it being controversial. Yeah, Willow, they just straight up took it out. You watched it once, and they removed it. That's insane.
Then you find yourself coming back again and again to the classics like The Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, and maybe a handful of other transcendent works of fantasy. If you're anything like me, then you've been wondering for a while now, what exactly is that itch, that Star Wars and Lord of the Rings scratch, that our contemporary 2020s fantasy doesn't scratch?
Thank you.
I mean, comes down to good storytelling. When it comes to fantasy, world building, a cool world, great characters, a protagonist you can root for and get behind, a memorable villain. These are all the things that I think are missing from modern fantasy. But again, like I said, I'm not like the biggest fantasy guy, so that's just my shooting from the hip opinion. Yikes.
In an effort to answer this question, I'd like to introduce a new concept. It's something I call elevated fantasy. And I'd like to define this term one word at a time, beginning with, what is elevated? So most of us have heard of the term elevated horror, and we can recognize it when we see it. But describing this term is a little trickier than it seems. The first question asked is, elevated as opposed to what? And the answer is really simple. It's as opposed to the B film, the genre film, the low art film. We might actually struggle to understand this concept now in our deeply postmodernized pop culture, where we don't really have a clear distinction between high art and low art.
And the Oscar goes to Everything, Everywhere.
Hell yeah, let's go.
All at once.
But the term elevated is in keeping with that altitudinal metaphor. This altitudinal metaphor also comes with a connotation of judgment, as does the term B film, as if it's a grade in school, and the higher the grade, the better. So the reason that I'm skeptical of the concept of elevated films right off the bat is that they don't really respect the B film.
Yeah, I've heard the term elevated horror many times, and I've never used that in a sentence. I've always just said indie horror, which I know is probably not necessarily accurate to each horror film that I talk about. But when I talk about like A24 stuff, I just say indie horror. I've never said elevated horror. I'm trying to think of the first time. I want to say the first time I heard elevated horror used was in Scream, the reboot Scream with the beginning with Jenna Ortega. I think she used elevated horror, and I was like, what the fuck? I just called it indie horror. So I don't know where elevated horror came from, but yeah, I've never used it. Should I? I don't know. I just call it indie horror, and most people know what I'm talking about, so that's all that matters, right?
It creates, passive viewers to have these genres that are where these films are pumped out, one after the other, and they're just kind of meeting the demands.
They think B films must be elevated in order to have value.
I want to show that beneath the Technicolor sheen of the 1950s, things were just as rotten as they are today. A B movie with A ideas.
Now, the reason why this quote from Maxine infuriates me so much is because B films do have A ideas. Take a look at the original Night of the Living Dead from 1968. This film has long been read as an expression of racial and class tensions in America, coming as it did on the heels of the civil rights movement.
Elvis Mitchell has been working on this thing of the top 10 seminal, basically black movies, for lack of a better term, starting in the late 60s. Number one is Night of the Living Dead.
Just 1 year before, 1967, there was an A film called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which explored some of the very same ideas, albeit...
What's up, Mason? We're watching a video about this guy. I'm assuming he's going to start talking about the downfall of fantasy films, and he's using horror as an example. I think he's coining fantasy kind of same way horror is, where there's like elevated horror. I think he's trying to introduce elevated fantasy. But yeah, he's trying to make the comparisons of elevated horror and his elevated fantasy. But welcome, Mason, King of Horror. Mason, the King of Horror. Oh, a King of Horror clips. And you got 2 knives. What up? You got knives out. Mason, are you stoked for Nosferatu? God, I can't wait. Makes me so annoyed that people have seen it. You know what I mean? Why can't you and I have seen it already? If people are already able to see it, just put the movie out. I want to see that movie.
In a more tasteful, dramatic, and explicit manner.
As for you two and the problems you're going to have, they seem almost unimaginable. But you'll have no problem with me.
The B film is the place where you explore the same ideas in a less explicit way, in an oblique, indirect, or symbolic manner. So just for reference, let's just pick a random year and look at 1963, a year where we saw the film Jason and the Argonauts. Okay, it's fun. It's stupid. It's a B film. But we also had a film called Winter Light. It's smart, but a little dull. A film. Both of these films are about man's fraught relationship with the gods, the beings in the sky. But they have wildly different approaches, and they appeal to wildly different audiences. But there was a third film from 1963 about beings in the sky, a film called The Birds. Where does The Birds go? Looking back today, we might want to classify it as an A film, since it's presented in such a classy manner.
Yeah, if we're just picking two, if you put a gun to my head and said, pick a lane, is The Birds an A film or a B film? Oof, I would probably say an A film. I would probably say it's an A film. But God, it is about a movie about a bunch of birds attacking people, so that is kind of silly inherently. But I think that Hitchcock presents it in a way that isn't cheesy. I mean, it's cheesy now, but go back in the 60s and watch The Birds. I'm sure it scared the hell out of people. So yeah, I would say Birds is an A if we're gonna choose one or the other.
It's a Hitchcock film and has been discussed as one of the great films of film history for so long. But on paper, it's a horror film, a genre film. It was aimed at a mass audience. So in a sense, Hitchcock was the first person to elevate the horror film. 42 years later, Christopher Nolan would Batman begin a new trend of elevating superhero films. But it's not just horror films and superhero films that are being elevated. It's every...
Did Christopher Nolan elevate superhero films? I mean, couldn't you argue that Sam Raimi... Or would you consider Spider-Man a B movie? I don't know. I mean, is Batman Begins an A movie and Spider-Man's a B movie? I guess. I mean, Sam Raimi is kind of he has a wild cinematic look that kind of makes Spider-Man feel like a B movie. Whereas Batman Begins is, yeah, I guess I can see where he's coming from. Christopher Nolan. I'm trying to think if there's any other superhero movies pre-Batman Begins that would be considered an A movie. Yeah, X-Men's kind of B movie-ish. Blade's kind of B movie-ish. All right. I'll swallow that.
Genre. I mean, just look at the old James Bond films and compare them to the new ones that are coming out.
Felix.
Yeah, but James Bond, the Sean Connery ones were, I would consider A films. I think James Bond transitioned into B films, and then it swung back and became, more serious. But I would say that, like, yeah, the Sean Connery James Bonds were not B movie Roger Moore schlock. So yeah, James Bond's a weird one because it started in an A movie category, I would say, an A movie category, then became B movies, and then swung back around to be an A movie again. Damn, they got the Titanic.
In the 2020s, everything is being elevated. But how exactly does someone do that? But like, what is the thing that makes something elevated? Is it the fact that it's gritty? That it's realist? Is it the fact that it's somber? That it's serious? Elevated genre films are often all of these things, but I don't think that the essence of elevation lies in any of those four adjectives. For example, I would still consider something like Nimona to be elevated, even though it's neither gritty, realist, somber, or serious. In my opinion, elevation is essentially a psychological conceit.
Is something on your mind, Ambrosius?
Elevation adds depth,
I'm the monster.
gravitas, and realism to the inner psychological domain of its characters. To elevate something is to refuse to allow its characters to remain one-dimensional.
I would, if he's putting that one in there, I would throw in Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, if we're sticking with animation, I think Across the Spider-Verse, everything that he just laid out, I think would apply to Across the Spider-Verse as well.
Or archetypal ciphers, while you allow the plots to be genre plots, which is to say one-dimensional. Characters will often have backstory that's told through flashbacks. They will often have internal conflict, and they're generally presented with an emotional naturalism that is meant to elicit an emotional response in the audience. This is serious high drama.
I don't know if this is a hot take, but I was not a fan of the Witcher series. Did not do it for me. I mean, I watched it. I don't know if I'd say I got through it, but it was pretty close to me just getting through it. Was not all that interested in The Witcher.
You understand me?
The great horror films of the past, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, do not waste 1 second of your time developing these characters beyond a few very simple traits. The characters are conceived as vehicles for the plot and little else. Today we consider that bad writing, and writers will fashion entire plot lines that revolve around exploring the wounds that these characters have suffered in their childhood, their trauma.
Trauma.
But the crucial thing to keep in mind here is that psychology as such is a very recent invention. Now, that's not to say that people before Freud didn't have minds. It's just to say that they conceived of a mind in completely different terms. So what we consider today to be emotional naturalism is entirely historically determined, which is to say, ideologically determined. For example, the romantic idea of melancholia is vastly different than our 21st century medicalized concept of depression, which is, again, totally different than the way medieval man conceived of sadness. And herein lies the inherent problem of elevating fantasy. It's a contradiction in terms. So, let's move on to the second term. What is fantasy? Fantasy is unique among all literary genres for taking place in what Tolkien called secondary worlds. Although thankfully, not all fantasy stories take place in secondary worlds that are based on medieval Europe. They are all based in worlds that have some kind of magic. To be considered fantasy, the work must transport the reader into an entirely different world or a hidden part of our world where magic is real.
Welcome.
Yeah, I would say that's true. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's solid.
Although we can already see many characteristics of what we call fantasy in the very earliest piece of literature that survives, the Epic of Gilgamesh. What we call fantasy as a literary genre really evolved in the late 19th and early 20th century. I'm definitely not the first person ever to connect 18th century romanticism to the rise of the fantasy genre, but it's important to keep in mind that romanticism was a direct response to modernity. It was a response to urbanization, to industrialization, to secularization, rationalization. It was basically anti-modern. It's to the Romantics that we owe.
That's why Princess Mononoke is so good. God damn, that movie's so good. I need to rewatch that. That Princess Mononoke, man, that is about as close to a masterpiece as there is. That film is incredible.
Much of our imagery of knights on quests. However, the great innovation of early fantasy writers like Robert E. Howard, who wrote Conan the Barbarian, was to look even further back than that, to look to Iron and Bronze Age history and mythology.
Conan is the damnedest bastard there ever was.
In fact, most fantasy is every bit as mythological as it is historical.
The mythology is based on oral stories that are passed down from generation to generation before the printing presses. And, you know, the Greek mythologies of the Trojan horse and Achilles and things, they survived through the years. The great Norse sagas survived through the years. But England, when the Normans invaded, whatever stories had been nurtured were eradicated by that. And so England's mythology was like medieval stuff like Robin Hood and King Arthur. I mean, it didn't go any further back than that. So Tolkien thought he wanted to create a mythology for his country, for England.
About 10 years ago,
Man, what happened to Peter? What is Peter Jackson doing, man? We need Peter Jackson back, baby. Come on. What is Peter Jackson doing? We need to get that guy back, especially in fantasy. What did he do last? Can you guys remember what Peter Jackson did last? I don't fucking remember. Was it The Hobbits? I don't remember a new Peter Jackson film in a long ass fucking time. All right, so he's going to do the Tintin sequel. I guess he fucked around with the Beatles documentaries for a while. Yeah, the last kind of live action thing he's done was The Hobbit back in 2015. That's crazy. Come back to us, Peter.
Set out to write a children's film. I had an idea of doing a modern fairy tale. Stumbled across A Hero with a Thousand Faces. After reading more of Joe's books, I began to understand how I could do this. It was a great gift.
But just because Lord of the Rings and Star Wars are explicit attempts by their creators to create a neo-mythology for modern man, that doesn't mean that everything we call fantasy does the same. One thing to keep in mind here is that fantasy is largely a literary genre, and only secondarily a film and TV genre. Although that might be changing now, there are still way more fantasy novels than there are fantasy TV series. And the thing about the novel is that it has its origins in the rise of modernity. The novel and modernity go hand in hand. The advent of the novel coincided with a new concept of the individual and the placement of human subjectivity at the center of the universe, as opposed to the subjectivity of God. That's why novels are either written in first person, from inside the head of the protagonist of the story, or from some kind of close third person where it is a God's perspective, but for some reason they're mostly concerned with the inner life of a protagonist. Weird. It's also why novels tend to be about characters who don't feel they belong in their world, where there's some kind of gap between the character and the world they inhabit. For lack of a better word, this is the modern condition. This is modern consciousness. Thus, fantasy novels actually do contain their own internal contradiction. The medium of the novel nudges it towards the modern, but its mythological imagination brings it to an anti-modern place. This is also why I think that every work of fantasy can be plotted on a spectrum that runs from the contemporary on one end to the mythological on the other. The mytho-spectrum, let's call it. Elevated fantasy is what I call works that veer heavily towards the contemporary end of the mytho-spectrum. They emphasize the relatable inner lives of their heroes, and also the sympathetic motivations of their villains. Now, the question to ask is, what makes something less contemporary and more mythological? I can think of 4 different answers to this question. My first answer has to do with the world building. So let's remember that in fantasy, you don't actually have to have a pre-modern world. Star Wars I consider fantasy, even though that's a futuristic world. What's important here is not how past, how historical that world is, but how magical, how mythological that world is. Answer 2 has to do with language. Now, most people who are confronting The Lord of the Rings, either the book or the films, for the first time, are probably a little bewildered by the archaic dialogue.
The walls of your bower closing in about you, a hutch to trammel some wild thing.
Yeah, I feel like Rings of Power, granted, I've only seen the first episode, but I felt like even just the first episode, the dialogue is a little more modern. At least that's how I felt compared to The Lord of the Rings. I remember seeing Fellowship. That came out when I was a freshman, and I hadn't read the books. And I remember like the first hour, I remember looking at my friend who had read the books, and I was like, dude, I have no fucking idea like what's going on. That the pacing of the Fellowship of the Ring is... And at the time, I mean, now I've seen it multiple times, so, you know, it doesn't feel as weird. But the very first time, going into Lord of the Rings fresh, not knowing anything about it, I was just like, there's so much going on. Yeah.
What?
But this is part of a deliberate attempt not only to evoke a pre-modern world, but a pre-modern consciousness. For example, in Tolkien, you would never say he laughed like a crazy person. You would say he laughed as one Fae.
Isn't the word maybe a modern word? Sick. Terrible, low-class, trashy word that people use now, sick.
You would never call someone sick to describe their mental state. You would say instead,
your words are poison.
Now, language is a really big and important part of the fantasy genre, but it's not crucial. Now, The Lord of the Rings might sound a little bit like Hamlet, but
All right, I'm going to pause it here. I am getting close to the end of my stream, and I thought that I would have a lot more to say on this, but fantasy is not my thing. I thought this was going to go in a different direction. Very in-depth video. Check it out. It's from Josh from Xbox Live if you want to finish it. But let's kick back for a second, see if there's anything on here that I want to... sounds interesting. I was going to do Girlfriend reviews, their newest video, because I think they're kind of fun. Maybe we can close out the stream with some lighthearted shenanigans. Should your boyfriend play video games? That's their latest video. Or, I mean, we can browse some more. Indiana Jones, people are loving it. People are loving that Indiana Jones. Yeah, I may just do we may just do that Girlfriend reviews and call it a day. The physical media dilemma. What's that? What's that? I'm not a physical media collector, but I always have the itch every now and again. I'm like, do I want to get that 4K Blu-ray? My digital library is so freaking vast that it's like, dude, starting over again seems so daunting. But yeah, let's go ahead. We'll watch this. Since we don't really I don't do a lot of video game stuff on my channel. It's more movie related, but I do play video games. And let's switch it up. It's only 11 minutes long. Let's do it.
My boyfriend has been playing video games since early childhood development, and today's video is an infocentric, mathematically sound, and wildly unnecessary audit of that gamer life. Because for the past 5 years, he's been living it with me there.
This is where I come to cry.
Silently judging, loudly on the internet, the things he chooses to be.
Why the hell you dressed like a chicken?
Things like a cowboy. looking at some can of beans.
Well, buy it or don't.
Games are a weird movie to watch. And they're awesome.
Yay! I'm crying.
Sometimes they're very stupid.
What is that? That's is that Detroit? I think that's Detroit. I never played that. I played the demo of it, but I never actually played it. Maybe I should.
Those are my favorite, which is why I was so excited to meet my hero, David Cage, at Summer Game Fest. Hold up a minute. If video games are so awesome, then why haven't we been reviewing them lately? Well, I could lie and say it's because they haven't been stupid enough lately.
Would you like to join us for game night?
But the truth is...
Man, what a disaster, that Concorde. Oh my god, what a disaster. And I almost got it. You know, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give PlayStation some love. You know, they're new into this kind of live servicey kind of games, and you know what? I'll support them. And the last minute, I was like, maybe not. And I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't. What's even more interesting is that I think Concorde is part of that Amazon Prime anthology video game series. So that's gonna be weird to see Concorde in that anthology series. But yeah, Concorde, man. What a story. What a story.
After 5 years of play game, review game, play game, don't review game, play other game, review game, get married, play game, all that play game really took a toll on our hardware, our home, and the finger Matt uses to parry, which 9 out of 10 doctors agree is the most stressed out fingy in all of Elden Ringy.
Your fingers.
Since Girlfriend Reviews...
I was playing Armored Core when it came out last year, and I was in a boss fight, and Armored Core uses the triggers. It uses both of them. I think the left side is like your machine guns, and the right side is like your missiles. And it's from software, so the boss is hard as hell. It's probably like my 30th try, and I was sitting there just jamming the buttons, giving this fucking mech everything I had, and my fingers just cramped. I had to like slide my fingers forward and like use different fingers. I was just like, I'm gonna get through this boss, and I did. I whooped his ass.
Started, there's been very little chance to service equipment, take inventory, recall the touch of grass, consolidate project files, archive digital assets, or watch the Lord of the Rings Extended Edition trilogy plus appendices on account of earning zero income from any labor that doesn't directly involve uploading Michael Scott memes to YouTube. That just paid the water bill. Now let's get these lights back on.
Yeah, I feel like Girlfriend Reviews was very big for a short period of time, and I think that the Hogwarts Legacy controversy really fucked them. I mean, it sounds like they had like hardware stuff too, but I just feel like everything leading up to Hogwarts Legacy, they were like on the top of their game. I mean, they're still on the top of their game, the top of the world, and then that Hogwarts thing hit, and yeah, I just feel like they kind of disappeared for a while, but maybe that's just me.
We're back.
Actually, yeah, let's just see. I'm curious, actually. Let me go back. We're going to get back to this video, but hold on. Let me see how they're doing. So 180K, 70,000. All right, so yeah, never mind. They're doing all right. When was Hogwarts? Was 2 years ago, I think. What were they getting? 1.1 million, 7,000. Yeah, I guess they didn't go down as much as I thought they were. All right. I mean, there's still, yeah, there's a lot more 2s and 3s and 5s than there were a couple years ago. But, yeah.
From a much-needed break to organize our workflow and thoughts surrounding the whirlwind of games and tailwind of gamers that we just took to the face for 2,000 days straight. So sorry we slowed down on releasing girlfriend reviews. We've just been too busy rebuilding it. And gentlemen, we have the technology to harvest every byte from every sprite we've saved since November 19th, 2018, and enumerate over 57,000 keywords used to tag over 20,000 clips recorded in over 400 titles, rendering over 5 days of footage, all for a YouTube channel that has but one question to ask: should your boyfriend play video games? And the numbers don't lie, but our database is too large for Adobe or even the puny nerds at Microsoft. So let's open Girlfriend Reviews File Explorer software version 7.0. My boyfriend developed it all by himself with his best friend, ChatGPT. They've come a long way since the launch of version 1.0, which went something like this.
Oh my god, he's an idiot.
The media pool we're about to analyze should provide valuable insight on Matt's gaming habits, such as the sequence of dates he played each game.
Dude, this is going to be fascinating. This is actually kind of cool. I want to see where this goes. This is actually kind of interesting. I love data. I love looking at, analytics.
Including his start and stop times. For example, he managed to sneak in a quick Zelda sesh on the date we got married, making it the second activity that took less than a minute on our wedding night. So obviously I want to know what he was doing on the Nintendo that could have possibly been more important than a-doing his brand new wife.
That's awesome. Godspeed, sir. Keeping that Zelda strong. That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
Right.
Every metric is sourced from a 10 terabyte library of video files, which are easily filtered and viewed for additional scrutiny. Why? Furthermore, we can use this data to scrutinize the habits of the industry at large by calculating the rolling average of keyword usage over time, which not only reveals the trajectory of gaming trends such as bad, but also allows us to model keyword.
Combat's number 1. Cutscene makes sense. Funny. Boss, yeah, people look at boss fights. Matt and Shelby, their names. Fail, kill. Bad, beauty, death, cool, glitch. What's at the very bottom? Stealth? Yeah, combat's at the very top, huh? I would think, cutscene's I was going to say cutscene seems like it would be the number 1, but it's pretty damn close.
Relationships, proving once and for all there's a statistically significant correlation between glitches and Todd Howard.
We did it, gamers. Lock him up.
Straight to jail for Todd Howard. All 13,000 of these source files were saved one by one whenever something deemed worthy of discussion occurred, and they were all saved by me. So that's 13,000 times I had to put down my knitting, lean over, sometimes really far, and press the replay button. Yet people say it's the boyfriend who does most of the work around here. But what does worthy of discussion mean? Well, looking at which games scored the most replays might help explain. Coming in close to first place, we have Elden Ring. Do I really need to explain why Elden Ring is worthy? It literally brought every other game that year to its knees,
We're not worthy!
So, Elden Ring. To her point, at the time of Elden Ring, I had never played a From Software game. I knew about From Software. The only thing I really knew about them was that they were known for having, grueling, hard games. And so I was like, I don't want to put myself through that. And then Elden Ring came out, and I was like, I'm not going to play Elden Ring. And then it was such a huge hit. And the release of Elden Ring for at least the first month, you could not escape Elden Ring. It was everywhere. It was on Facebook. It was on Instagram. It was on Twitter. Elden Ring was, creeping out of your closet. That's how popular Elden Ring was. So finally I caved in and was like, you know what? I'll play Elden Ring. I'll spend the $60. I'll probably end up, putting 10 hours into it and then, throwing my controller across the room and I'll never play it again. But what ended up happening was that I beat it. And then I platinumed it, and then not only did I beat it and platinum it, I've gone on to beat it multiple times, and in the same year that Elden Ring came out, I went back and played Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, Bloodborne, Demon Souls. I played and beat all of them, and they are now my favorite video game studio. Elden Ring is one of the greatest video games of all time. Like, that game is insane.
Hold on, then why does Starfield only have 7 less than that? Well, you may not like it, but Starfield is the definition of a worthy game. For me to poop on.
I feel like Starfield is up there because a lot of people were hating on it. I feel like Starfield was one of those, like, search for Starfield because people wanted to hate watch it and chew it up and spit it out and say, look how terrible this is. It was almost like the opposite of Elden Ring. Elden Ring, you wanted to, like, immerse yourself and get into the Elden Ring community and shout at the mountaintops with others who loved it, whereas Starfield was like, I hate this. I want to see other people hating it. So that would be my... And plus Starfield was just a massive release. Starfield was a really big deal.
That's right. Games that are, bad can generate just as many worthy moments as a good game.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Oh, wait a minute. Halo Infinite was neither good or bad. It was just a thing that happened, vaguely. This is what we call a multiplayer anomaly, meaning it scored so high not because we think its clips are worthy of discussion, but because my boyfriend thinks his clips are worthy of a dubstep remix.
It's terribly loud.
Freaking believable. Coming in at second place is Far Cry 6, which only makes sense because it was 2 players, so 2 computers, 2 times the footage. Still, second place seems a little high for an ordinary Ubisoft swindle, unless you remember our encounter with this man, who would have been worthy of 1,000 clips if he didn't have prior engagements on the moon. What is the secret of your power? Considering that games which are good or funny to look at,
It doesn't matter what it looks like.
or include me,
Look what I have.
are the games which inspire us the most, is it any surprise nothing even comes close to the worthiness of Baldur's Gate 3? First place by a mile with a do
I want to play Baldur's Gate 3? The problem with Baldur's Gate 3 is that I am not a PC gamer. I'm a console gamer, and I just feel like that game is, to me, seems like it would be a nightmare to play on PS5. I'm assuming a lot of people have played it on PS5, and I'm sure it's perfectly fine, but just like conceptually of how the game would operate, I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like if I was a PC gamer, I would be all over Baldur's Gate. But the fact that I'm on console and it just looks more like a PC game, it's kind of like got me scared to play it a little bit. But everyone, just like Elden Ring, you could not escape. Well, not to the extent of Elden Ring, but a lot of people loved Baldur's Gate.
whopping 511 clips. Worthy. More clips equal more data, as illustrated in this almost identical list of games ranked by keyword count. And keywords are where the fun begins, but there's way too many, so let's filter out useless grammatical stuff like and or, as well as meaningless numbers like 9s and 2b.
Why is 9s dressed like a pirate?
That's what you're worried about right now?
Okay, our most used keyword is combat, which is great news for gamers, but it's a photo finish with cutscene, which is great news for significant others who just want to know how the story... Why are you following that bird?
Bird, where are you?
How much longer is getting stepped on gonna take? And don't say it.
Not hungry. Not thirsty.
I swear to...
I sure wouldn't mind a round of Gwent.
Anyway, this ratio seems about right. Cutscene combat is pretty much what a AAA video game is, so when visualized, their frequency over time should be quite synchronized. Bazinga. Interestingly, in early 2021, combat became slightly more common, an upward trend that continues to this day. However, despite their divergence, they still share each other's ups and downs, depicting a resilient harmony between two timeless fundamentals of game design. And here's big titties! Another timeless fundamental of game design, bouncing up and down and up and down. Don't believe me? Just ask my boyfriend if he remembers his favorite part of Final Fantasy VII.
Titties, yes, I remember.
How about Resident Evil 8?
Probably her breasts, which are heavier than average.
And Nier Automata?
Don't get me started on
Stellar Blade?
That gag brings us to our third most used keyword, funny, because games are f***ing hilarious. I'm talking about this.
What is that? Is that For a second, I thought that was that prison game, Way Out, but I don't think that's it. What is that?
Whoa.
I'm talking about.
Don't forget to like, follow, and obey.
Yikes, that's cringe.
No. Although, upon examining the funny graph, there are 2 unmistakable crashes in the giggle market. If I had to guess, the first would be when we played The Last of Us Part 2 while half the internet terrorized us, and the second would be trying to play Hogwarts Legacy while the other half...
Yeah, I knew Hogwarts Legacy was going to come up in this video. I knew Hogwarts was going to come up in this video. Man, I don't know if you guys remember, but Girlfriend Reviews, they were live streaming Hogwarts, and they were doing donations, and they were going to donate to trans ally organizations, and their audience went into their chat and just demolished them. Like, how could you play this game? To the point where I think she ended up crying, and they ended up just like closing the stream. Yeah, what a weird time for them. That's gotta be pretty wild to like be excited to play this game and to do this great cause, and then you look at the chat and it's just like people just being assholes to you. Man, it's gotta be weird.
Of the internet terrorized us.
Our list of allies grows thin.
But you know it's not a joke? This fart detector.
I have farts!
Have you ever used the Wayback Machine to relive your favorite old website? The fart detector is like that, but for your favorite old farts.
I didn't even mean to do that.
Because when you play games all day for a living with a hot microphone, you're gonna catch a few hot booty tones.
You farting right now, dude?
No, that's my chair.
But you won't know until later when you're labeling clips like Todd Howard, glitch, bad, fart, I guess. Everything we play is streamed on Twitch, by the way. So according to our count of fart chart, that's bare minimum 174 times my boyfriend leaked an air biscuit live on the air. A live leak on the air biscuit, if you will. Cause again, when you play games all day eating cheeseburgers and cola fizz for a living and mustard and relish, things get cranky real quick if you try to hold in the french fries and onion rings. So eventually every streamer has a career-defining moment like,
I really should have skipped those beans.
In conclusion, before I answer the question, should your boyfriend play video games, it would be dishonest if I didn't make one final query. L-O-V-E.
Don't let me get killed by a bug and I love you.
There's a bug behind you right now.
Okay. I love you.
I love you too.
I hate you!
Dude, Helldivers is so fun. I need to get back into Helldivers. That game was a blast. Oh my god. That game was awesome.
Me?
No, not you. I love you.
Why?
You know why. Thanks for playing.
I think Sekiro has the most boss fight attempts. I forget the boss names in Sekiro, but it's the last boss that has the 2 stages. That, I think I played him more times than any other boss in From Software. Like, that was very difficult for me.
This boring game with me.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too. Yeah, your husband should play video games. They're pretty good. But at the same time, I do wonder how watching my channel reach the end of year 5 went by so much faster than watching my boyfriend reach the end of Persona 5.
For real? 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 For real?
I never beat Persona 5. I gave it a good old college try. I want to say I put in, oh god, 10 or 12 hours, and I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Not for me. Not for me. Although I want to play, what's the newest one? Is it Metaphor? Is that what it's called? But it's like, I didn't make it very far, and I know they're different games, but I didn't make it very far in Persona 5, so it makes me nervous to play Metaphor. Yeah.
For real? 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 For real?
Anyways, we're back, so go use NordVPN so we don't get evicted.
All right, that's
Just
fun.
kidding, kind of. A VPN creates a...
These guys are always fun. I enjoy their videos. Well, we still got 30 minutes. I was gonna clock out here at 8. There was one. What was it? There was no good. Eat the Rich. Fake war on capitalism. Oh, okay, wisecrack.
Okay, did anyone else notice this really weird line in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
It's not yours. You stole it.
Then you stole it.
And then I stole it. It's called capitalism. The bid is 160.
And this is not an isolated example. You know, more and more movies seem to be winking to us, the audience, and letting us know that they get it.
Look into the clear center of this glass onion. Miles Braun is an idiot.
And it might feel good to be seen by Hollywood.
I love Glass Onion. That movie was awesome. But I love murder mystery stuff. I love it. I love Poirot. I love Agatha Christie. I love that Knives Out. I can't wait for the next one.
But I'm starting to wonder, are they just selling our political values back to us in a way that validates our beliefs while they continue making tons of money?
You've stolen hundreds of millions from people who've done nothing but work hard all their lives.
Beekeeper.
Now, Mark Fisher wrote that films have the ability to perform our anti-capitalism for us, allowing us to continue to consume with impunity. You know, in this way we get a political version of the sitcom laugh track. That's where canned laughter allows us to just sit there in silence as the studio audience laughs for us. And we see this all over the recent canon of Eat the Rich films, like the Knives Out series.
So she bumps him off for the inheritance? Come on, no. Have you seen her Insta? She's an influencer.
Triangle of Sadness.
You're all equal. That is so true.
Everyone's equal.
Saltburn.
Oliver, I have a complete and utter horror of ugliness. Ever since I was very young. I don't know why.
Because you're a terrible person.
Even Barbie gets in on this action.
Those are all good movies, though. I enjoyed all those movies. They're fun.
You set the feminist movement back 50 years. You destroy girls' innate sense of worth, and you are killing the planet with your glorification of rampant consumerism.
And while these movies are all critical of the rich, they feature wealthy characters that are pretty one-dimensional. You know, they're either idiots who just sort of lucked into money, or evil monsters who would use all the child labor in the world gladly if it got them more jets and cars and fancy wine.
Yeah, but couldn't you make the argument that that's true in real life? I mean, there's a lot of people who didn't work for their money, and there's a lot of people who have money that are idiots, and I think that's what these movies are shining a light on. That's not to say the people who are rich haven't earned it. There's a lot of people who worked really hard and deserve the money that they've obtained. But there are a lot of people who have acquired a lot of wealth that are fucking morons, and I think that's what these movies are having fun with. So I don't know if I would just dismiss it that way.
Now, the working class characters in these movies don't really fare much better. They're often portrayed as helpless victims and moral angels, or in some cases, just resentful sociopaths. Now, these movies and their critiques of capitalism might make us feel proud of our correct politics. But we have to ask, what's behind this new radical Hollywood and who's benefiting from it, right? Why do billionaires and their studios want to make movies critiquing billionaires and their studios? One of my favorite satirists, Chris Morris, said this about the trend.
The problem is that I think we've got used to a kind of satire which essentially placates the court. You do a nice dissection of the way things are in the orthodox elite, and lo and behold, you get slapped on the back by the orthodox elite who say, jolly good, can you do us another one?
In other words, when we watch movies about capitalism being bad, it actually demotivates us to change anything about our world. So we might then want to ask, are these films doing more harm than good? Now, I don't want that to be true. I don't know what you think, but I really want to believe that popular art can be politically valuable. But in this case, I do see how this type of anti-capitalist sentiment is so easily co-opted to create profitable content for major studios. So today, I want to try to make sense of it by looking at why so many of these films get it wrong. And to do so, we're gonna look at a movie that gets it right, or at least less wrong than the others, The Menu. Now, before we get cooking,
yeah, The Menu. Menu's great.
I want to say, welcome to Wisecrack 2. My name is Michael. I'm glad you're here. Now, if you are a regular viewer of Wisecrack, thank you so much for joining us over here. This is your first time seeing one of our videos. So good to meet you. Now, this is our
Good to
new
meet you,
channel
buddy.
where we're going to focus on analyzing films, TV, and games, trying to see how they can help us understand the world better and still using all the tools of philosophy that you all know and love. Now, if you've never seen our main channel, Wisecrack, please check it out. We release weekly videos that use philosophy and critical theory to make sense of all types of cultural, social, and political trends. Okay, so let's talk about the menu. And fair warning, we're going to spoil the movie. Now, right off the bat, we're
Okay, I'm going to come back to this video in a second. I want to see what else they got here. How cars explains the class of American society. Okay, I didn't know if I was gonna expect a bunch of woke thumbnails, but looks like they're arguing in good faith.
Menu, and fair warning, we're going to spoil the movie. Now, right off the bat, we're introduced to a character who seems like the quintessential insufferable rich guy.
Babe, please don't smoke, it'll kill your palate.
Tyler strolls into the restaurant and can't help but stunt on the staff with his knowledge.
Do you make that with a Paco jet?
You know, desperate to be seen as an insider, he makes sure that the cooks know that he knows about the hyper-specific gear they're using. Now, while you could take this...
Yeah, he's like a super fan. I mean, I've only saw the menu once, but I felt like that character was like a portrayal of like a super fan, thinking they know everything, they're the expert, but they've actually never done the thing that they're an expert on. That's kind of how I took that character.
As a show of respect, it's not. He's actually fetishizing a commodity that he's never done the labor of producing himself. And commodity fetishism describes what happens when we ascribe value to a thing and not the human relations that, made the thing. Basically, he's wholly focused on the cultural value of Chef Slowik's fine dining cuisine, ascribing the value to the food itself and the gadgets that produce it more so than the incidental human labor that goes into it. Sort of like how one values a supreme tea, not for the hands that made it, but the exclusivity of the brand itself. Now for Tyler, the production of this food and the hands involved in that production are negligible. He's sort of like an excited little boy when the cook knows his name, but he doesn't even consider returning the favor.
He knew my name, babe.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't ask his name.
Yeah, well,
The cook's not valuable to Tyler because of his humanity. He's valuable for his proximity to a particular cultural fetish. In this case, the food at a famous restaurant. This fetishization and the belief that consuming and understanding high-end food makes him cultured have actually undermined the value of his obsession.
You are why the mystery has been drained from our art. You see that now, don't you?
Because for all of Tyler's high-end consumption and associated...
I know this isn't directly related to what this guy's talking about, but I can't help but think of like the spoiler culture we live in, where I'm almost convinced that today there's no such thing as a spoiler. Like people just throw everything out there. There's no more spoilers. Just here it is. And it's like, there's no more spoiler warnings. People just talk nonchalantly about things and it just ruins experiences. And like, I always come back to Spider-Man No Way Home, where a large portion of the Marvel fandom knew going into No Way Home that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were going to be in that movie. And, went and saw the movie. They show up, everyone claps. And in that moment, when Tobey Maguire walks through, I couldn't even enjoy that moment because I thought, like, how cool would this moment be if no one knew that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield would be in this movie? Like, it just sucks that we just live in this world now where everything has to be spoiled. We have to know every little thing. I'm just like, man, I wished I lived in an alternate timeline where I went to go see No Way Home, and the only thing I knew about it was that some villains were going to return, and then just sitting there and then just have fucking Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield come on screen. Like, I feel like that moment, as cool as it is, and it's cool to see them on screen, I feel like that moment was robbed because we just live in this weird fucking society where we just have to spoil everything. We have to, expose set photos. Look at this costume. Look at, this person's in this movie. This person, there's a cameo, all these cameos. It's like, can't we just shut the fuck up and just wait till the movie comes out and just enjoy it? Yeah, it's very sad. I know it's different than what they're talking about in this video, but I couldn't help but think when they just played that clip of Ralph Fiennes being like, "You're the reason why, all of our secrets are fucked." It just reminded me of, the fact that there's just no more spoilers. No one can just keep their mouth shut anymore. It sucks.
Expertise, when he's forced to enact that knowledge and actually cook, he just totally falls apart. While that's not the point of the movie, I do think you should know how to cook 3 things. So if you don't know how to cook, learn how to cook 3 things. If you don't know what.
Oh wait, I thought he was going into an ad. I thought he was going into an ad. My bad.
But don't do it how he did it, because he dies. He can't mediate between the worlds of cultural fetishization and material production. And he's made painfully aware of the unbridgeable gap between his cultural understanding of food and the actual labor of creating it. His bourgeois pleasure of consumption is irrelevant when it comes to the more proletarian act of production. He seems to understand this and sort of accept the punishment foisted upon him by Chef. We can see this more clearly by comparing Tyler to another one of my favorite on-screen rich bros, my buddy Shane from season 1 of The White Lotus. Like Tyler, Shane sees the consumption of luxury as essential.
God, I forgot about this guy. His whole thing with the room. He could not let go with the room that he booked. I forgot about this guy.
To his character. We see this when he absolutely freaks out, when a logistical mix-up prevents him from staying in his desired hotel room.
The guy lied. That or he's just stupid or something. We did book the room with the pool, and we paid for it. My mom forwarded me the booking.
Just as enjoying dips with no bread confirms Tyler's status, being denied the room with the plunge pool seems to threaten Shane's. They're also both with women who they seem to value primarily as eye candy that enhances their own status even as they treat them like shit. But the differences are telling. Tyler willfully takes his own life when his disconnect with the labor behind his fetish is revealed, and he can't stomach the disdain of the chef he idolizes. On the other hand, Shane gets away with killing the hotel manager and still gets to keep his wife after treating her like absolute ass. Now, I don't know what you guys think, but personally, I don't really find either of these characters relatable or even realistic. Please let me know in the comments if you find one of
God, that season 1 of White Lotus was so good. Season 2 was okay. I think the first season of White Lotus was way better than season 2. Not that season 2 is bad, but God, there's so many good moments in season 1. The goddamn what's the caretaker's name in White Lotus? The first season, that guy was amazing. Yeah, I just think the first season of White Lotus was I don't know if I say way better than season 2, but I think season 2 of White Lotus was kind of a step down.
Are these characters relatable? Because if so, I would love for you to be a benefactor of our channel. Now, Shane represents a flattened and cynical version of the rich guy archetype. One who acts like just an absolute asshole and then fully gets away with it. His underlying psychology seems to boil down to something like, I'm rich, bitch! But with Tyler, we get a deeper look into the psyche of a person whose entire understanding of the world is mediated by capitalism, in which to desire something means you must necessarily acquire that thing. The sort of practice of cultural appreciation turns into reckless consumption. Like if you appreciate art, you gotta buy a Rothko at auction. Also, if you have the money to buy a Rothko at auction, again, hit us up. We would love for you to be a benefactor. In this way, some of us might be more like Tyler than we like to admit. If you don't think that makes sense, just work with me for a second, Because being obsessed with food is a defining millennial trait. Maybe because, dinner at a hip new restaurant is way more feasible than a mortgage on a hip new condo. But,
Yeah, I think that I will admit that I share some of the quality, aspects of this character. Not when it comes to food, but I've been obsessed with filmmaking since I was a boy. It's been a part of my whole life. And although I have dabbled in short film, made a short film, I've done grip and electric, like I've been around sets, but if I was on the set of, a David Fincher film and I was like, oh, that's what that light is, oh, that's that camera, that's that lens, oh yeah, I wouldn't do that, but like, I can look around and understand and be aware of my surroundings to be excited. But if David Fincher gave me the fucking director's chair to direct a scene, I would be like, I don't know if I would, if I would ruin it like this guy does, but it would definitely be nerve-wracking.
How many foodies out there are aware of the stark difference between the conditions in which their meals are served and the conditions in which they are produced? Okay, so for example, most of us don't take the bus home with the line cooks to see where they live. We're about as disconnected from this stuff as someone like Tyler is. Now, a lot more to say here, but real quick, if this is your first time here, please do subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you know when new videos are coming out, like it, leave comments, all that sort of stuff. And if you love movies, thinking about them and talking about them, please check out our movie podcast, Show Me the Meaning. It streams right here every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. The podcast is available later in the week.
All right, Buster.
If you like this,
let's go.
You'll definitely like that. Okay, I want to consider another type of character that always shows up in these sorts of movies, what I'd call the smug finance bro. Shout out to any smug finance bros who are watching.
Work and money. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. We're pathetic, aren't we? Oh my God, dude. Somebody shoot us.
Now, they might seem like total parodies, but hints of their humanity actually peek through the surface.
Me and Amanda are not good. It's not good. Your fault. No, it was her fault. She made me text her coworker. Yeah, fucking, of course it's my fault, bro.
These are guys who seem fully subsumed by the logic of capital. While Tyler thinks he's a gourmand with an aesthetic appreciation for fine dining, these dudes, I guess to their credit, harbor no such self-delusion. Cash rules everything around them. Tyler.
Yeah, they seem to not give a shit. That's kind of like, whatever. Like, this guy is obsessed with what's happening around him and his surrounding, but those guys are just like, I don't give a fuck, I paid money, we're here to have good food, who gives a shit, let's drink some wine and fucking spend money.
Tyler thinks his good taste makes him more than just a rich guy, but these dudes know that they are nothing more than rich guys, which makes them funny to watch until it stops being funny.
Fuck it. I'm gonna break this fucking window.
We see them, only understand the world via economic relations. They can't conceive of an alternate motive for anyone's actions. That's why they assume that you can buy your way out of being murdered.
Just say a fucking number, man!
And honestly, you guys probably feel this, I felt it, it's hard to feel too much sympathy for these dudes. They've gotten rich doing financial crimes, and they basically treat everyone else like a bunch of NPCs in their art of the deal lifestyle. But they've also been dehumanized via their own type of alienation. Now, typically, alienation, as popularized by Marx, describes how industrial labor sucks the humanity out of workers. They're alienated from the products of their labor, which are sold for someone else's profit, from their fellow workers, who they're forced to compete with, and even from their own humanity. Their existence is reduced to workers whose living conditions are just enough to keep them alive. Now, for many of us, this might look like working a 10-hour day at our main job while doing a bunch of side hustles to make rent, leaving us with little time to develop
me. Hello, that's me.
as people, or explore our hobbies, hang out with friends, fall in love, things of that nature. But the same system creating this alienation also dehumanizes those on the winning side, the stock traders and CEOs of the world. Now, if you're thinking, Michael, are you about to look me dead in the eye and tell me to have empathy for stock traders and CEOs? Kind of, but not really. So don't click away yet. Now, they're disconnected from the human cost of their wealth. They don't see the relationship between quarterly earnings or reductions in spending and human beings. And you don't have to be a millionaire.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a whole different world. They're in a whole, to be a CEO, I can't even, imagine what your fucking workload is. I mean, maybe it's, not very much, but I would imagine that their minds are on so many different things. They are not on, how am I going to pay for groceries? How am I going to make it to work? I have no money for gas, my flat tire, the fucking bus is late. They are not thinking about it. They are thinking on a whole other set of things. So yeah, there's definitely a huge disconnect for sure.
Millionaire to be affected by this type of alienation. You know, we're usually unaware of the labor conditions that create our phones, much less the lives of the workers who make them. And when we order Thai food on DoorDash, all we know is that in 37 minutes, a bag of pad Thai is gonna magically appear on our doorstep. Again, this video is brought to you by DoorDash. Hashtag, we don't use them humans. This isn't really a moral issue. You know, you're not being a bad person when you order delivery. You're simply participating in a fundamentally exploitative and alienating system. But it's worth noting that Marx builds his theory of alienation off of Hegel's master and servant dialectic. This is a big idea. You don't got to know a lot, but this is where Hegel notes that it's not just a servant that's dehumanized via a master who's appropriating their labor. You know, the master also suffers in as much as they're totally disconnected from labor. I mean, if you grew up with like a super rich dad, shout it out if you did, you know, maybe there was a time where like something broke and your super rich dad had to pay someone to come fix the thing, and the working class person knew so much more than your super rich dad that it like negatively affected your super rich dad, and he drank a lot more scotch that night, you didn't see him for 2 days, and mom started going to tennis lessons a lot more, and then everything else fell apart from there. Basically, I'm saying that like Hegel described cuck theory for the first time. Now,
nice.
While the servant's life does largely suck, they do get to see their consciousness reflected back at them in their labor, which helps them develop their own humanity. If that sounds a little unclear, you know, imagine you go to a pottery class and you create a thing and you put some effort into it and you bring it home, you put it on the table, and your roommate says, hey, it's pretty cool. Every time you walk by that, you might think like, hey, I'm not a total worthless piece of shit. I made a cool bowl that people like. You know, you see your creative consciousness staring back at you in an object that you've made. Now, in Hegel's example, the master, and having others carry out labor for them, doesn't get to see their consciousness reflected back at them. And because of that, they don't really develop their humanity in the same way. As Hegel sees it, this relationship to labor is fundamental in cultivating both our humanity and our ethical relations to others. Honestly, guys, you just learned as much about Hegel in the last minute and a half than many will learn in a whole semester, so good for you.
That is true. That is true.
To put it in a mellow way, every time that you drop your laundry off for someone else to clean, you're slowly destroying your own soul. This is why films that associate the behavior of the rich with an individual lack of morality are missing the point. Because when we focus on the moral corruption of individuals, we then ignore the economic and social conditions that create these exploitative relations. It's turning a structural issue into an individual one. Now, this is why Slavoj Žižek says,
yeah, I would say that a lot of these films that are critiquing capitalism or the rich, eat the rich, I would say are pretty surface level. And I think it's surface level because I think it's easy for, you know, your normal audience member to digest. That would be my guess. But, you know, that's just my opinion.
Don't like this moralization that comes with these movies. You know, we are full of anti-capitalism today, maybe even too much, but they always focus on personal corruption, greed. We should move from this simple moralistic anti-capitalism to more fundamental questions such as why people are pushed to act like that. We see this sort of like personal corruption in a movie like The Glass Onion.
Anywhere you go, it's gonna be your word against mine. How do you think that's gonna go?
Because cartoonishly evil rich guys make it way easier for us to watch the movie and just think like, wow, I could never be that depraved. I'm one of the good ones, even if I just got a huge raise.
And that place is the crown jewel of my kingdom. I'm not gonna let some crash test dummy with a gun fuck it up. Is that clear, Mr. Pettis?
But while these rich guys are heightened for satirical purposes, our friends in the menu aren't really that far removed from a group of MBA students who are eating sushi somewhere in Boston right now.
But I used to say that you buy the experience.
You know, unlike the born evil rich guys from other films, feels like for these dudes, their souls have just been slowly eroded by the system.
You guys ever get burnt out or?
But hey, enough talking about rich dudes. Let's look at how these films talk about actual working class characters. Okay, before we do though, I need some fuel. which is a delicious sip of coffee from Wisecrack's official coffee partner.
Oh boy.
Yes Please Coffee. They are a small
All
roaster
right,
based right
mister.
here.
All right.
It's a physical thing that just the thought of lying, yeah, it makes me puke.
Or resentful monsters thirsty for power.
It's mine. All of this? Yes.
Now, while the kitchen staff in the menu does represent the working class more broadly, the film focuses on two characters in particular. You have Chef Slowick and then Margot, who's a sex worker and Tyler's date for the evening. Now, they're both valued, even if tenuously, by the wealthy. In the case of Chef Slowick, elite magazines write about him. CEOs invest in him. The rich travel to an isolated island just to eat his food. In the case of Margot, her coolness and sex appeal compel men to spend lots of money to share her company. But see, this value is contingent on the taste and desires of the rich, who have notoriously fickle stomachs and libidos. I mean, look at how Tyler speaks to Margot.
I can, because ding dong, I'm the one who's paying, so maybe shut up and eat.
And let's not forget, he brought her on this date knowing that the final course was death.
So you brought Margot? Mm-hmm. Why?
That's just because you don't offer seating for one.
So you hired her knowing she'd die?
Yes.
I mean, listen, I know that
Not
you've
cool.
been on bad dates, but at least you've never been on a date where the person knew that you were going to die at the end of it. But we would love, bad date stories, so let us know if you got them. And Chef Slowick knows that he's basically owned.
I would have to say that Doug Verrick owns me, except now things are a little more complicated, and I own Doug Verrick.
In both cases, we have people whose work, in Slowick's case, his food, and in Margot's case, her sexuality, are products for a class they don't belong to. Neither of them could afford their own services. Yeah, I know in Margot's case, that would be particularly complicated, but you get the point. And this commodification and alienation sucks the joy out of their respective crafts.
I haven't desired to cook for someone in ages.
We see the same thing for Margot.
What rattled me is that he told me to tell him that he was a good man and that I was his daughter and that he loved me and I loved him.
While they've both been exploited by specific rich individuals, what's really broken them is economic relations under capitalism. They're not alienated from the joys and pleasures of food and sex because of rich diners and horny nerds. They're alienated because they exist in a system predicated on the exchange of labor as a means of human survival. Contrast this with Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut, Blink Twice, where a working class person is morally wronged by an upper class person. Now in the film, the real issue is a rich person and their hanger-ons lack of moral.
Yeah, the reveal in that movie, I hope he doesn't spoil it, but the reveal in that movie is pretty wild. I was not expecting the reveal for Blink Twice to be as batshit insane as it was.
Morality. Not the fact that their wealth structurally affords them the ability to abuse working class people with impunity. This centers personal responsibility rather than structural inequality. The film's ending is framed as happy because the virtuous protagonist is now the one endowed with money and power. This suggests that the hyper-concentration of wealth is not inherently a structural problem, but rather that its moral implications depend on an individual's character. Like we've been saying throughout this video, it's the difference between watching one of these movies and being like, damn, rich people are bad, and watching one of these movies and being like, hey, there's a set of structural conditions in our society that mean that rich people can develop their subjectivity in a certain way that they exploit other people with impunity, while those people are systemically sort of alienated from their humanity. Now, in the menu...
I mean, again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is that I think that the first example, Rich Man Bad, is just an easy, digestible concept for your casual audience member, versus the second part, the deeper structural issues of capitalism. Not to say that I'm not trying to say general audience moviegoers are stupid, but I think that it's just an easier an easier concept to grasp than the deeper structures. Although I think there's probably some pretty good examples of deeper structure issues than the menu, but not better than the menu, but as well as the menu.
Both Slowick and Margot get to see their bosses die.
Under he goes,
And while it offers a momentary sense of freedom, it's not enough to stop Slowick from burning it all to the ground. Now, unlike Saltburn, a film where a middle-class character murders a rich family to inherit their wealth, which paints the middle class as ultimately resentful and lustful of the upper class. Now, Slowick doesn't kill his boss as some scheme to steal his wealth. Rather, Slowick and his staff are aware that nothing can fix the system. No act of individual vengeance can disalienate them. No evil scheme can restore their fundamental humanity. The contradictions of the system are just too big to be resolved. And in an act that we could say is at least kind of akin to self-immolation, Slowick and his staff burn themselves to the ground along with the human s'mores as an act of symbolic protest against the system. Only Margot avoids getting s'mored, and instead enjoys dinner and a show from the comfort of a boat. But the thing is, this doesn't mean that she has a happy ending. She's not going to return to the shore and find a new world which prioritizes humanity over profit. What she does get is a cheeseburger, which represents a rare moment of disalienation. Without the economic pressures of fine dining, chefs.
Yeah, we've come full circle now. The master gets to see the example he was using was the pot that you make, and you get to see it every day. So now we come full circle. Now I'm seeing the point. Now the master can see his work.
Slowick was able to create something that connected him to a time where he loved cooking. It's like the one thing he makes in this movie that you feel like you put love into. And Margot gets to enjoy something that was made with that love and care. And as I read the film, it seems like this burger takes her back to a more innocent time, before she was eating expensive meals that she doesn't like, paid for by weird men who seem like horrible fathers. And just like how consuming the perfect cheeseburger isn't going to create revolutionary change for Margot, passively consuming Eat the Rich movies isn't going to create revolutionary change for us. Maybe the point is that the better films in this genre at least help us break out of that illusion. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right. That was pretty interesting. I thought he was going to talk more, use different examples. That was kind of more about, I think this title should have been like, how the menu takes down capitalism the right way or something. Because it was basically, hey, Turret, what's going on? Welcome. That was basically a video that was primarily about the menu. Which, hey, I'm all about it. The menu's awesome. But yeah, that was interesting. That was an interesting video. Good job, Wisecrack. Well, dang, Turret. I was on my way out, but now that you're here, what's going on, man? Or lady. I'm assuming you're a man. We were watching, what did we start with? We looked at the Golden Globe nominations, which were wild. Turret, did you see The Substance? Or Heretic? Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. The reason why I was asking if you have seen The Substance or Heretic, I don't know if you've seen the Golden Globes, but I was looking at it earlier and I was shocked. Here, I'll show you. This is how wild the Golden Globes are. So, brace yourself. The Substance is nominated under the category comedy or musical. That is insane. And then what was the other one I saw? Hugh Grant is nominated for Heretic under musical or comedy. How insane is that? Like, what? I was saying earlier, like, why don't you just make a horror genre category? Like, wouldn't that just solve everything? Put Substance in there, put Heretic in there, put Nosferatu, which I'm assuming is going to be great. I don't know. I don't understand why these awards just ignore horror as a genre. It's fucking stupid. And to put The Substance and Heretic in the musical and comedy category, that is insane. But that's award ceremonies for you. Oh, and I never saw this too. We were kind of going over cinematic box office achievement. I've never seen that as an award category. It's like, okay, these movies are getting a pat on the back for making a shit ton of money. I mean, I guess. Which I think, is Inside Out 2? What's the box office this year? Who reigns? I want to say it's Inside Out 2. I want domestic. Yeah, Inside Out 2. Damn, by a hair. 652 versus 636. Dude, Deadpool Wolverine made 636 domestic. For rated R, that's pretty damn solid. That's got to be the highest rated R rated movie, right? How do we find that? How do we all time? And we want to... Yeah, Deadpool Wolverine. What did it beat? Deadpool? Oh, Passion of the Christ. Damn. Deadpool Wolverine. I feel like I knew that at one point, but must have slipped my mind. American Sniper number 4. Joker number 5. Oppenheimer. Huh. Damn, dude, that's insane. $636,000 for an R-rated film. Damn. But yeah, I just thought it was crazy, The Substance being nominated for musical or comedy. I mean, there's some other stuff too that just doesn't make sense to me. Like Anora being musical or comedy. Sure, Anora's comedic, but it's not a comedy. Same with Challengers. I wouldn't classify Challengers as a musical or comedy. Both of these films are dramas. I don't even remember Challengers even being that comical. Anora was comical. But Substance, what the fuck? Is it because of the ending? I mean, yeah, sure, the last 20 minutes of Substance is pretty wild. And there were some people laughing in our theater, but like, Substance as a whole is not a comedy. Same with Heretic. I don't remember anyone laughing during Heretic. Like, that's insane. I almost feel like that's a misprint. But yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's very weird. I haven't watched these and I haven't watched the Golden Globes in a very, very long time. Same with the Oscars. When are the Oscar 2024 Oscar nominations? Oh, I guess it would be 2025. Is that how they do it? Do they say? They don't say when they're going to come out. All right. Well, it's been fun. We've had a long show, at least for me. I got to get to bed. I got to wake up at 4. Got to take the dog out and catch some Z's. So thank you all for showing up who watched. Hope you enjoyed yourself. I will be back on Wednesday night, and we'll see what we get into on Wednesday night.